The narrative section of the Torah is generally well known. And certainly the story of Yosef is well known to us. Yaakov seems to show favoritism to Yosef. Yosef has bad things to say about the brothers. We read Yosef has dreams. The dreams breed enmity, jealousy. It reaches a point where the brothers go to take care of their sheep. Yaakov sends Yosef to see what's going on, and ultimately Yosef is cast into a pit and he's sold, and he is resold, and finally makes his way down to Mitzrayim, and he winds up in the home of Potiphar. The wife of Potiphar sets him up. He ends up in jail. Two ministers for Paro have dreams. Yosef interprets the dreams, and the cupbearer ultimately tells Paro at a time when Paro has a distressing dream about Yosef, and they decide, we're going to schlep Yosef out of jail, and they bring him out of jail to interpret Paro's dreams, and Yosef interprets Paro's dreams, and Paro is satisfied with the interpretations that he's provided with, and ultimately Yosef is made into the second in command. He's Mishnah Lamelech, Tzofnas Paneach. He has this incredible position of grandeur. And then there's a famine in Canaan, and the brothers come down to Mitzrayim, and Yosef recognizes the brothers. The brothers don't recognize him, and Yosef goes through this whole contrived process to tell them, I'll give you food, but you have to bring your younger brother Binyamin down. Binyamin comes down, he plants a silver cup into Binyamin's sack, and ultimately you have a situation in which there's this tremendous confrontation, and finally Yosef reveals himself. Everything is wonderful, and Yaakov comes down to Mitzrayim, and from there things are okay until Yosef dies, and ultimately Yosef, a new king arises that doesn't know Yosef, and ultimately the Jews are enslaved, and it's terrible. There's this extended period of suffering, and finally, after all this, then the Jews are brought out of Mitzrayim, and they cross through the Yam Suf. And why am I telling you the story? You know the story. I'm wondering, as I'm sure you are, why is it so complicated? Why make it that there has to be this whole divine orchestration in such a way that there's a lot of twists and turns? It makes for wonderful drama. And in fact, I remember shortly after we were married, Adina and I had a guest at our home, a young woman who was new to Judaism. She was Jewish, but she was looking into the roots of her heritage, and she was learning the stories of the Torah for the first time in her life as an adult, and it was so exciting. The suspense from week to week. She didn't know after Parashat Vayeshev what would happen in Miketz, and she didn't know from Miketz to Vayigash what would happen. So it's great, it's exciting for a first-time reader. But why couldn't Hashem make it more simple? Why does it have to involve so much complication, so much lack of clarity, so much strife? And well, we all understand that we don't understand the ways of God, and we know that since the times of Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, we no longer have Nevi'im, we no longer have prophets that can deliver a message to the entire Jewish nation to explain to them what will happen or why things are happening to them. Nor do we have, as the Malbim points out, a roa. We don't have a seer who can say for certainty why a particular individual is experiencing particular challenges. We should therefore shun anyone who tries to explain with certainty why events have happened. Nobody can say the Holocaust happened because. Nobody can say 9/11 happened because. Nobody can say that the pandemic is happening because. Nobody has the right to say that. Nobody has that permission to do so. So we don't have an understanding. But what is important for us to recognize is that each stage of the stories that we read about in Sefer Bereshis in the beginning of Shemos, at each stage there are challenges, and the people who were living those challenges really had no way of seeing what the outcome would look like. And we too are in a situation where we really don't know what the future will look like. We never know what tomorrow will bring. The key, as Rav Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin points out in a different place, is to see how we respond to particular situations. And it is folly for us to try to spend time asking the question of what's going to be, what's going to happen. That question is not relevant to us. The question that we should all be asking is, what can I do? What should I do at this time? And Yosef, for his part, tries to do what he can do. And the brothers, in their ways, try to do what they can do. And even Yaakov tries to do what he can do, even when situations seem desperate, when they seem difficult, when they seem without obvious hope. And so I think rather than think about how long will it be until we get back to normal now that there are vaccines, I think we still need to think about what can I do at this time? What can I do to keep myself, my family, my community safe? What can I do to be mindful of others who are suffering, people who I know about, and people who are more invisible in our community, to make sure that there is food security, to make sure that people aren't suffering from loneliness, to make sure that there's a sense of inclusivity. Those are the questions I think that we really should be thinking about at this time. And if we can pay attention to those things, then I'm convinced that just like in the amazing story of Yosef and his brothers, it all quote unquote worked out for the best, so too in our situation. It will work out for the best with the coming of the Geula Shlema. May it come. Amen.